Welcome back to Two Marks and a Spark. Everything is weird, including the fact that I'm in a new place. Uh, Hello, everyone. We have a lot to talk about.
What?
I'm here, as always. I've never not been here. I don't think there's ever been an episode of this show without me. Speaking of someone we could never do this show without, Uncle Russ,
Greetings.
welcome back.
Yes.
Uh, well, that was a weird weekend.
Yes.
I don't really know how to feel about most of that. Um, Okay, so we're going to talk about Night of Champions first, I
Sure.
think, because it happened first. So, Night of Champions from the Jeddah Superdome in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, if you couldn't figure that out. Uh, this show was shockingly good.
I was surprised. It was much better than I expected.
My goodness.
Much better. Yeah.
Uh, we had the show started with Seth Rollins versus AJ Styles. This match was fantastic.
Yes, it was. And my only minor complaint was that this entrance and all of the entrances were much longer than normal, which were already too long. But it's a very, very big arena, and the entrance ramp was a lot longer than usual. It looked
Was
like they
this
had to go about a half a mile.
was this the loudest Saudi Arabia crowd? I think it had to
I
have
think
been.
it was, yeah. Very enthusiastic. The crowd, these foreign crowds are putting American crowds to shame.
I mean, but normally though, Saudi Arabia is pretty quiet. They weren't here. Um,
A little
Seth
more
won.
boisterous. Yeah,
Seth won, which was no surprise,
right.
and
But it was a very good match.
it was, and it probably would have been the match of the show if not for the main event. Um, and we'll talk more about that later. But I thought that main event was fantastic.
Yes.
Uh, what wasn't great, but it was very good, was Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch. I thought this match over delivered big time.
Did you?
I
Were you
thought
surprised at the conclusion?
I liked the angle. I actually normally I hate that shit. Normally I can't stand it, but it made sense for everything they've been doing.
Well, I'm glad to see that they're obviously going to be getting Zoe Stark more involved in the main roster and an ongoing storyline. And I'm impressed by her performance as a wrestler. She's a good heel.
I was gonna
I
say,
think
how do you
that
feel about her going heel?
what's that?
How do you feel about her turning heel?
I think it's natural. It's perfect.
Her with Trish makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If Trish is gonna be back regularly, and it seems like she is because they drafted her,
Right.
I mean, this is kind of the role that makes sense. What was also kind of surprisingly fun and good was Ali versus Gunther. I expected this match to go about a minute, and it didn't. It went way longer, and it was very good.
How long did we get on this one? You get. I don't have it written down, but
I clocked it at about 8.5, 9 minutes.
okay. Because it
But I
felt
think
longer. It did feel longer than that. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It was well done match. As
they really
predicted,
had you
Gunther
believe in a couple
failed.
of times. They had you believe in a couple of times that Ali was going to do the impossible. And
Right. That's right. And yeah, the crowd was really into it.
what the crowd was not into until about the last 5 minutes was Asuka versus Bianca Belair. The only reason I think the crowd didn't care is everybody thought Bianca was just going to win again. And I legitimately believe that's part of the reason the crowd just kind of didn't care for
Right.
about 10 minutes.
That's what I
Uh,
expected too. I expected Bianca to easily pick it up again. I'm glad she didn't. I like Asuka. I like her. Well, it's kind of a new turn, a new gimmick, but not really. It's just a little slightly exaggerated variation on her earlier persona.
what did you think of the finish? I know that's been getting a lot of discussion online. I didn't mind it. It was very Japan. It was fine. It
Yes, yes. I
it
liked it.
worked.
I liked it.
Um, I don't think the crowd fully got it, but I did. So
Well, because the crowd weren't able to get the camera close up of her rubbing that shit in Bianca's eyes.
Right. I guess you're probably right about that. But Asuka is the new Raw Women's Champion, at least for now. That could certainly change very quickly, but for now, Asuka is the Raw Women's Champion. Speaking of women's champions, Rhea Ripley versus Natalya. I don't know why this match was even on the card. Rhea absolutely murdered Natalya and then pinned her.
Natalya got nothing out of this. Absolutely nothing.
She got murdered.
And this seemed and this was not needed to put over Rhea. She's already over. It seemed like a pointless match to me. Just a space filler.
They had to have Rhea defend the title. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, but they could have had a more what's the word? I'm not to criticize that. They could have had a higher profile match.
They could have. What was a high profile match and delivered, at least somewhat, was Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes.
I think it made sense. I thought that Brock would win this one because I think that what they're going to do, they're going to have the third match, which will be the rubber match coming up at whichever pay-per-view is coming up next. Is it Money in the Bank?
I don't know if Brock will work London.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. I know Roman's going to be on that show as well. So, right. We'll see. But
I think I predict that we will get Cody versus Brock Lesnar again.
Mm-hmm.
And then that will be the next chapter of whatever Cody Rhodes' story is supposed to be.
Because I think Cody's going to be in the Money in the Bank story. Cody's going to be in the Money in the Bank match. So I don't foresee them doing that in London. But they could. I mean, I don't think they will. And
or they could do something. They could do something totally predictable, like here's Cody in the Money in the Bank match, and he gets attacked from the outside by Brock Lesnar and beat up and left bleeding and broken on the ground.
I do want to point out Cody's injury is a work. It's not a shoot. He does not actually have a broken arm.
Right. I hope most of our viewers could figure that out on their own.
Well, you can never.
People with broken bones do not get cleared to wrestle, period. It's a storyline. It's not real. It's not going to happen.
But Cody did a pretty good job selling that arm.
Yes, he did.
And Brock had him in the Kimura lock. He passes out. Brock wins. And that was it.
Here's the out then for Cody going forward is that he didn't submit. He didn't quit. He didn't give up. He's got the same thing when Bret Hart put Stone Cold Steve Austin in the submission years ago at that Iron Man match, and he never submitted. He just passed out from the pain.
And then maybe the second best tag team match I've seen all year. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. This was art.
This was a great match, and this was the next chapter in the ongoing storyline of the bloodline.
Roman is so good.
Yes.
And he was so good here. And Heyman was so good.
Everybody was good in this match. Everybody did a great job. I think that Sami Zayn, speaking to the crowd in their native tongue, was a really nice touch. I really think that got over good with the fans. They always like that kind of thing. And they also highlighted the fact that Sami Zayn and Mustafa Ali had been able to do a pilgrimage as a part of their Muslim faith, And I thought that was, considered the part of the world they're in, that was probably really helpful too.
Well, and Sami Zayn was so good in those ring introductions. And
yes.
Paul did the thing for the bloodline like he always does. Right. And I love when Paul's doing Roman's introductions and Roman just starts swinging the belts and he's sticking his tongue out.
Yeah, it's great. They work so well together.
And
because here's the thing, Paul. I think there may be. I suspect there may be more in the future having to do with Paul Heyman, because he's gone out of his way a couple times now to say, as far as the Brock and Cody thing, that he had absolutely nothing to do with that. And why would they even make a point of it unless he did have something to do with it? And there could be further developments to come in that story.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is the ref ends up going down because it's a bloodline match and the ref must go down. He
That's
gets
right.
speared. He gets speared by Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman looks like he's going to have a fucking heart attack.
He was,
And
yeah.
then here come the Usos and they start beating up Sammy and KO. They accidentally super kick Solo, but Roman doesn't see the fact that that was an accident. Though I
Right.
think he figured it out. He just didn't care. He's like, "Why are you here? Like, I told you to just stay home. Why are you even in the country? Like,
Right.
get
Exactly.
out of here." Then he starts shoving Jay, he starts shoving Jimmy, and Jimmy just absolutely kicks Roman's head off.
He did. And the way he played it was like it was just almost at the boiling point. And then when at one point he just boom, he just lost it. You could see it. He just completely lost it.
And Jimmy Uso snapped. And Jay's like, "What in the hell do you think you're doing? We can't do this. We got to be better than this." Jimmy says, "I got you," kicks Roman again. Roman goes to the outside. Solo gets up. I think he got hit with a haluva kick, and that was it.
Yeah.
And Sammy and KO retain. The Usos, Jimmy kind of drags Jay out of there, like, "Dude, we gotta go. We gotta go."
Get out of here. And then Roman Reigns just sit there and just he looked despondent, he looked upset. Like, what's going to be the next part of this storyline here?
Roman looked like he couldn't, like
Couldn't believe it.
somebody had just shot his puppy and he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
this was brilliant, and the show goes off the air, and I'm thinking, okay, that was really good, but I fully expect Double or Nothing to be better. It
Look, like
was, it was kind of.
I felt like AEW Double or Nothing. It wasn't a horrible show, but I had some problems with some of what unfolded. Mostly it was because there were so many things that just didn't make sense. They didn't seem logical.
There was not really a bad match per se, but some of this stuff was just silly. So we had the Blackjack Battle Royal, which is the 21-man Battle Royal.
Correct. Now I did not see any of the pre-show, but apparently on the pre-show when I turned it on, they were just finishing up. They had just finished up the Hardy's match. The Hardy Boys had a
Yeah,
match.
I'd heard they done something for the Owen Hart Cup.
Yes, and then
Uh,
there was and then all of the entrants for the 21-man Blackjack Battle Royal were introduced during the pre-show, and then at the top of the hour they just started with the match.
which I was fine with. It's a battle royal. That's
Right.
fine.
Get it over with. Battle royals are never a good idea, in my opinion. They're usually not entertaining, but
This one was fine.
I predicted the ending.
Yeah, I saw it coming. I was hoping Swerve would win when they got down to the last two, and I thought him and Cassidy actually did a pretty good last couple minutes there.
Yeah.
And Orange retains the title, and we move on.
I tell you who else did better than I expected was Big Bill.
Oh yeah, Big Bill.
Not a great name, but he looked pretty good in this match, actually.
Indeed, he did. Speaking of looking pretty good, Adam Cole versus Chris Jericho. If this didn't make Adam Cole look like $1 million damn dollars.
Yes. And
Uh,
here's the thing: they made a little bit of a to do about Sabu being there as the special guest enforcer, but he wasn't out there very long, and he didn't do very much. They just kind
no,
of got all that out of the way so that they could focus on Adam Cole and Chris Jericho in an unsanctioned match.
this was very good. This was the best part of the first half of the show, at least in my opinion.
Right.
Because the show takes a nosedive from here and doesn't really get back up again until the last couple matches. But
This was match was stopped by the referee.
yep, which I was fine with. It was a TKO. I was good with that. Um, I liked the match. I like both of those guys. I really like Adam Cole. I thought Adam Cole did really well here.
Yeah.
They told a good story, and Adam got the win. I don't think it's over because they do have that mixed tag match Wednesday, and people have been kind of wanting them to do more with Adam and Britt on screen
Yeah.
in whatever way you can, and I'm okay with that. So I was good with that. What I was not good with was Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett versus FTR. This match sucked.
Yeah. And I love FTR. And I like most of the guys in this match, but it was stupid. This was kind of like a comedy match, wasn't it?
No, this wasn't supposed to be a comedy match though.
Yeah.
This match was just bad. This was just a bad match.
And I don't understand, why is Karen Jarrett there?
Damned if I know.
She adds nothing. She adds zero to the chemistry of this match.
Russ, we watch this show every week. Whether we choose to or not, we do it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell you why this happened, but they do about the stupidest guitar shot you've ever seen. Karen Jarrett hit Aubrey Edwards over the head with a guitar. I thought that was dumb.
Yeah.
But FTR got the win. Mark Briscoe's still a babyface. We move on. I hated that match.
Yeah. I love FTR, but once again, the best tag team in the world, which in my opinion they are right now.
Was that the worst FTR match since they left WWE?
It's one of the worst. Yeah. You still have to have good booking.
I thought their match with the Guns was better than this.
What's that?
The match with the Guns was better than this.
Yeah, that's sad to say.
Well, at least the match with the Guns had a halfway decent story. Like, if we lose to you, we quit. Right. We're done. We go backstage. Starks gets beat up by Bullet Club Gold. FTR come and run him off. So I suspect Bullet Club Gold's going to get a third person.
Does the save, right?
So I suspect Bullet Club's going to get a third person. And I don't know who that's going to be, but I would think Adam Cole is not going to be that, even though it would make sense. But
yeah, it would make sense because of the Bullet Club connection, but it seems to me like he's definitely a babyface now.
Then we get Jericho and Saraya calling out Cole and Britt for Wednesday. I think that's going to be a really good match. And this was a really funny angle. This was actually this made me genuinely laugh. Jericho hit a security card with the fireball and said, "I'm a wizard, bitch."
Yeah. Right.
And then we get maybe the worst ladder match Christian has ever been a part of.
Oh man.
Jesus Christ.
It really wasn't very good.
Oh.
They continue to badly mishandle Wardlow, I think. He's just been booked in so many bad matches and bad angles that, he's a capable guy, but he comes off looking like a goofball.
And he's boring sometimes. He goes into these long stretches where he's just kind of not that entertaining, which I think is part of the problem with how they book him.
Right.
Is they can't figure out what to do when he stops being entertaining and starts being a snorefest.
But, I thought this thing that when Arn Anderson comes out, that was really bizarre. I mean, he bit
Luchasaurus's thumb.
He bit Luchasaurus's thumb, and his thumb's bleeding. It looks like there was a chunk out of it. And Arn Anderson had blood caked all over his mouth and his lips, and Arn doesn't look healthy. He's about my age, and he's almost as out of shape as I am, not quite. So I'm like, he doesn't look healthy. And this match didn't do him any favors.
No. But Wardlow retains the title, unfortunately. And we move on. Speaking of unfortunate, Tony Storm versus Jamie Hayter. I can tell you that the plan for this match was originally very different.
This was a very short match.
This was also not the plan.
Well, you know what happened?
Jamie got hurt.
Okay, it's because of the legit injury. They had to change things.
Jamie has been legitimately injured for about a month.
Yeah, but they
And
want to keep the title.
they were not even sure she was going to be able to do this match. So they had to do something. And I totally understand going back to Toni Storm because that is a safe choice.
Yeah.
Toni Storm is a very good worker, and it sounds like it's going to be her and Sky Blue at Forbidden Door now.
Oh boy, Sky Blue.
And I don't think Sky Blue's winning the title, but like at the same time, I don't know that I'd be that surprised. I mean, there's a lot on this show that surprised me, but uh it makes sense to have Toni. If Jamie's hurt, Toni's the one that makes sense.
I
You know,
think so.
you're not putting that belt back on Thunder Rosa at this point. Um Now, there was something later on in this show where you could say, well, she's back now, so you could put the belt on her. Well, yeah, but why? Toni Storm makes sense here. And
Yeah.
I didn't hate it for what this was. This was good. Speaking of for what it was pretty good. House of Black versus the Acclaimed and Papa
Billy Gunn.
Gunn.
Billy Gunn. Yeah. Okay. This one was I
This
always
was
like House of Black.
and they made Billy Gunn look good, and maybe it's because they turned off all the lights.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and I always like seeing Brody King at the pay-per-view. He goes full court paint, looks like one of the guys in dark
What
for
popped me was when
what's that?
Caster's coming out, Caster's rap when he came out, and he said, "And Buddy, how can we be scared of Buddy when he's getting cucked by a kid named Dominic?" And I popped. I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, they go there. They really do.
I enjoyed that. That
Mhm.
was so funny, and this was a very good match. And Billy, at one point, screamed, "Eat shit, bitch!"
Right.
I can't remember who he yelled it at, but he screamed, "Eat shit!" and hit the Famouser over the rope. And good match. House of Black retain.
House of Black retains as I predicted they would.
I don't see another option for that trios title right now.
Yeah. This next match was a pointless exercise. Why did they bring Taya Valkyrie in and give her such a push when there was no payoff of any kind?
I think there might be a payoff because I'm wondering if they're not going to heat her up for Tony eventually. That would make sense. I mean,
Yeah.
she's not a mid card worker. She's a main event women's wrestler. So,
Well, Jade Cargill gets her 60-0 record.
And everything looks pretty normal. Mark Sterling gets there and there and cuts a promo and starts jumping up and down. And then he looks like he's going to shit himself because here comes Chris Statlander.
Right. I did not see that coming. Didn't expect her to return.
Remember, they told the story before Chris got hurt that Chris has been the one that has gotten the closest to beating Jade, which is why Mark looked like, oh,
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Then it was over very quick.
No, but did you see Mark Sterling's face? He was like,
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Online rumors that Jade Cargill may be leaving AEW. Have you heard that?
She's not leaving the company. She is taking time off.
All right. That makes sense.
But Chris Statlander is the new TBS champion.
Right.
And I really enjoyed this because Chris Statlander is very good. And
she's very good. Very good. She's real strong too.
I took no issue with this, is basically what I'm saying. I don't care that it was a short match. It kind of had to be because they were really tight on time. And you'd see that later on in the show.
Well, it was almost a 4-hour show as is, so they wouldn't want it to go on too much longer.
Right. And and then we go on to the greatest four-way match I've ever fucking seen in my life. This match.
I don't think it was the best one I've ever seen. I thought they still did way too many stunts. Too many stunts that Didn't make logical sense. I'm tired. I'm really tired. This is nothing new. It's been this way for a while. Every time two guys go up to the top rope, I get tired of that. And every time they dive out onto the floor to knock the guys over that are waiting there, I get tired of that. And they did a lot of that. I got very impatient with this match. I thought there was some brilliant stuff. I thought MJF looked really fantastic.
I thought Darby was great. I thought MJF was great. I thought Jack Perry had probably the best performance of his career. And I thought even Sammy Guevara, for as much as I don't like that dumb son of a bitch, I thought he was pretty good here.
Right.
We have to talk about the entrances, though, because we got an explanation for something me and you talked about several weeks ago.
Right.
We were questioning not too many weeks ago why Tay Conti had not been wrestling.
Right.
We figured it out.
Now we know.
So Sammy Guevara's music hits, and Tay Conti is pregnant. Good for them.
Yep.
Sammy Guevara was never going to win this match. You could have told me any of the other three guys were going to win, and I probably would have believed you, but
I suspected that they would keep it on MJF.
Well, so did I, but if they were going to change it, you could have told me Darby or Jack were going to win, and I would have believed you before I believed that they were going to put that belt on Guevara. Just didn't make a whole lot of sense for Guevara to even be in the match. Forget.
Well, I don't think he's as over with the AEW crowd as the other ones are either.
No, he's not. But MJF's entrance was amazing. Darby's intro was great.
Yes. Here we've seen the devil himself on his throne. And no one's on the level of the devil.
And MJF hit a crossroads at one point, which popped me real big. That was the surprise, is that they all started hitting their mentors' finishers. And I was surprised that they let MJF hit a crossroads. But I don't know if you heard this. MJF was saying fuck a lot.
Yes, it was audible. Definitely.
My favorite one was when Jungle Boy did like a DDT to him, and he was like, "Oh, what the fuck?"
Yeah, you can definitely hear it. But on pay-per-view, you don't have to try to censor it out with the delay button like they do on live broadcasts.
I would be surprised if he didn't get yelled at a little bit when he went backstage, though.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Because it doesn't look great, but MJF does win, and we do not have a new world champion, but we don't need one because I think MJF is just that damn good.
Yeah.
And they could go a million different directions from here. You could tell me that they're going to heat Darby back up and put Darby in there. You could tell me they're going to put Jack in there because Darby kind of got screwed.
Yeah.
Because of the, remember, he went for that coffin drop. It looked like Darby was going to win. MJF threw the title in there. Darby landed on the title.
Right.
Headlock takeover 1, 2, 3, and that was it.
Yep.
And it was what it had to be, and MJF had to win.
Did we have another referee bump in this match too?
I think so.
Yeah. These referees are very, very frail. You just barely nudge them and they're down for like 10 minutes, unconscious.
In both companies.
Yep, and no doctors come out to attend to them. Like the doctors there, they don't give a shit about the referees. They're gonna let them lay there and die.
The next match, Anarchy in the Arena.
Anarchy in the Arena, yes, sir.
This was great.
This was this was chaotic. This was all over the place. This is what it was billed as it was going to be. Anything goes. I mean, weapons of all kinds.
They billed it as total chaos. They told you this match is going to be chaotic.
Right. And
it
a couple
was.
times, they wrestled it up and down the stairs and throughout the crowd. And
Wild Thing was playing for about the first 7 minutes.
Correct. The band, what were they? The Fallen Idols. Not familiar with them. But they kept playing until the lead singer got taken out by
the Bucks.
Kenny Omega and
the Bucks.
Yes, the Buck. Yeah, it was the Bucks. Yeah,
that kicked him in the head.
right.
And Don Callis comes out. He's on commentary. Tony Schiavone was so good on this show. Shivani's just like, oh, this son of a bitch.
Right.
And he just, this match was great. I loved this match. This match saved the show. The finish comes when we get interference from a masked individual who takes the mask off, and it is Konosuke Takeshita. Takeshita
Right.
has turned heel.
He has
Wheeler,
aligned himself with the Blackpool Combat Club,
but the
apparently.
surprise was Wheeler Yuta pinned Kenny Omega clean in the middle of the ring.
Yes, he did.
That was the surprise. Was that Yuta got the pin, and it was pretty fairly clean. For this match, it was clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. This was interesting. But Blackpool Combat Club get the win. I assume they're going to go to Blood and Guts with this.
Right.
And
Yeah,
it sounds
probably
like
so.
Ibushi's coming in sooner rather than later. And it'll probably be 5-on-5.
Well, they called it a dual main event, but forget that. I don't buy that. There was the one main event. The main event's the last match.
Well, it's
That's the
not
only
like
one.
Night of Champions that had 3.
Yeah, well, no, they claimed they had 3, but everybody knows there's only one main event.
But what did you think of Anarchy at the Arena closing the show? I don't think they had another choice.
No, that was a good choice. These guys are probably the love them or hate them. These guys are the biggest stars in the company right now, and
Yeah.
you know, love them or hate them, the EVPs are still a big deal there.
And you can't deny their selling power, and they've got a lot of it.
And the
And
crowd's into it more than I ever was. But yeah, I'd say that it was booked good for their crowd.
I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was great. I thought this was the best Anarchy match they've done. Uh,
Better than that football field bullshit they did a couple years ago. Way
well,
better than that.
they had to do something for the pandemic, though. I understand why they did that. But what was interesting to me was the fact that other than the last 2 matches, there was nothing crazy on this show. I mean, the Statlander thing, the I mean, really, what was there outside of the last 2 matches?
Right.
This was a 2-match show. I think overall, Night of Champions top to bottom was better, but I think the last 2 matches were better than anything on Night of Champions.
Yeah, I guess overall I would agree that Night of the Champions was a better show. It just flowed better.
But the last 2 matches were better than any match on Night of Champions at the same time.
I think maybe at least one of them was. I'd agree with the
Anarchy.
yes.
See, I like that 4-way more than you did, but that's okay.
Mhm. But it wasn't a bad match. I wasn't as sold on it as you were, but it doesn't mean I hated it. I didn't really hate any of either show. I didn't absolutely hate it.
I mean, nothing made you want to turn off the television.
Right.
Which, I mean,
Or hit the fast forward button.
For how many years were we watching WWE TV thinking,
right. Thinking just a couple years ago, if you fast forward through the crappy parts of Raw, you'd get through the whole show in about 30 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm curious as to what you think happens next here, specifically from the AEW perspective, because they have a big month coming up. We have we have Collision on the 17th.
I expect them to be, get some storylines leading into that,
We have Collision on the 17th. We have Forbidden Door on... One second, I don't remember exactly what day that is. 2023 Forbidden Door, June 25th. So The
Right.
17th, they have the last 2 weeks of June are crazy because it's Forbidden Door, or sorry, Collision. It starts on the 17th. The 25th is Forbidden Door, and then the 29th, the video game comes out. So this is going to be a big month for AEW.
Oh yeah.
I don't have it in front of me, but I will try to have the week that comes out first week sales numbers for uh, Fight Forever.
Yeah.
Because
By
I
the
think
way, this is the little ad promo they did for Fight Forever. This is the first time I had ever seen the actual graphics, and I was not very impressed. I thought
no.
MGF looked like fucking Opie Taylor or some shit, you know. I mean,
I
it looks very cartoony. It looks like game graphics from years ago.
it really does.
And I'm
That's
not
kind
a
of been
game guy, but I noticed that kind of thing, you know.
and that's kind of been my problem. I mean, not only do the graphics not look great, but a red flag in the game industry is when the developer doesn't show very much before they put the game out.
Yeah.
And they have not shown very much for this game, and that is a concern.
Well, they're probably worried about losing money now.
I mean,
Because
they
if the
have to be.
gaming people come out and say, "Hey, so far it looks like shit," that's not going to help their sales.
Well, I mean, it looks like a fun game, but graphically it looks like crap.
Yeah, it looked kind of cartoony. That's the way I'd put it.
I I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna get it,
I mean, the faces they didn't look as bad as AI, but pretty close.
but I'm curious. So, what do we think they're gonna do next month? Because they announced the United Center for June 17th. CM Punk is coming back.
Obviously. And
'Cause-
are they going to keep him on a different show from the Bucks and Kenny Omega
well, they better.
because they don't get along? But you know, here what they'll probably do is they'll as soon as CM Punk gets back, they're going to force his way into the world title picture somehow.
I
We could get another MJF CM Punk match down the road.
I mean, there's gonna be a brand split. That's the thing. Like, we know that. There's a brand split coming here.
Right.
And they teased it a couple of weeks ago with Miro and Thunder Rosa coming back. And going into Tony's office.
Right.
I just want to know, like, who's gonna go where, because are you gonna put the Bucks and Kenny on Saturday, or are you gonna put Punky Punk and the Funky Bunch on Saturday?
Well, I think they're going to keep Punk on Saturday. If they're doing that in Chicago, they might just leave him on that side of the brand split. Because if they booked it for Chicago, the crowd's going to be expected, and if CM Punk does show up, the crowd's going to probably want to throw a riot or some shit. No.
Well, I frankly have no interest in CM Punk coming back at this point because I just don't think he's worth the trouble.
It's always trouble. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, he can do good stuff, but I'm over it. I just think that last display at that media scrum was so unprofessional that, you know, Tony Khan was completely emasculated in front of the whole world. Sat there and just took it like a chump.
Well, here's the reality. Punk's coming back.
Yep.
He's gonna have to behave himself. And
he will for a while. But I predict sooner or later he's going to do what he always does everywhere he's ever worked for the last couple decades.
Get mad and quit?
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
Or he'll stir up so much shit that he'll have to quit, you know.
I mean, it sounds like he signed a whole bunch of legal paperwork basically saying if he leaves, he can't disparage the company. And which, by the way, non-disparagement agreements are fairly standard in an employment scenario.
Sure.
Like if you go to work for, name a retailer, Target. If you go to
Right.
work at Target, part of your employment agreement is not disparaging the company publicly.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of the employment. They can terminate your employment for disparaging the company publicly.
Right. That's why people that they work somewhere and then they go online and post yet about their boss, they're always surprised when they actually have a consequence for it.
And they don't always get fired. They're reprimanded usually, but you know, it is interesting to me that that wasn't already in there, considering what happened the last time CM Punk was a professional wrestler. But I mean, where do they go from here? What do you do with CM Punk now? The rumor is Samoa
Oh,
Joe. The rumor is Samoa Joe.
yeah, that could be a good feud.
And you know, the other rumored thing right now, I guess, is Danielson versus McGuinness in London. That'll be fucking incredible if it happens.
Yes.
Um, I don't know how you bring Punk back without him patching things up with the Elite.
Right.
That has to happen eventually. Somewhere. Maybe not right now. Maybe it doesn't happen for 6 months. Maybe he's back for 6 months before it happens, but it has to happen somewhere.
It's in their interest, everybody's interest to do that.
Right. So I don't know. I think they're gonna have to keep the belt on MJF. They have to.
Yeah.
There's a rumor that Goldberg's coming in.
I
God
know.
forbid. God forbid.
Oh
And
God, I hope
Tony
it's
confirmed he's talked to him at the scrum last night. So ow. I hope it doesn't happen.
I didn't watch the scrub. They had one afterward.
I didn't see everything. I got cliff notes, but
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't get to see the show until it was over. I watched the show last night after it was over because
You were up really late then.
I was moving stuff all day yesterday, so I didn't really
Right.
have time to watch a 7-hour escapade in Las Vegas.
Right.
But and this is the first AEW pay-per-view I haven't seen live since the pandemic, I think.
Yeah.
So, you know. But here's the thing. If Punk comes back and there isn't problems, it is only a benefit to them for Punk to come back.
Yes.
If he doesn't cause problems.
Right. That's when they had their biggest ratings that they ever recorded was CM Punk.
But you cannot put the world title on him.
I wouldn't.
He's got to work a Brock Lesnar schedule where he's wrestling 4 or 5 times a year.
Right.
You can have him on TV. You can have him out there cutting promos, doing his little song and dance about how much he hates everyone, because that'll draw. But I don't know. I don't know how much Punk really benefits this company beyond the next 12 months.
Yeah, we'll see where we're at 6 months from now. This could end up being the proverbial turd in the punch bowl. You know what I mean?
I mean, it could go really well. You know, we could be sitting here talking about this and we could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, I've been wrong about a lot of stuff. I already watched some of the shows I've done, and I catch myself making factual errors in my statements, and
or just predicting something
for
wrong.
which I basically don't apologize because nobody's perfect.
Or like we predict something completely wrong.
Right.
I want to point out that June is a weird month because we don't have a WWE pay-per-view.
Right? Not till July 1st, I think.
We have an AEW pay-per-view, and then we have a WWE pay-per-view, I think like a week later.
Next
Hold
one's
on.
coming up on like the 17th or something.
It's June 25th for Forbidden Door, and then the
Okay.
next Saturday is Money in the Bank.
Okay.
So I'm curious, what do you think the main event of Forbidden Door is? Because I think it's Okada versus MJF.
Oh, that could be that would be excellent. That would be one worth seeing.
It doesn't sound like Mercedes Moné is going to work that show. So, you know, you could have told me that it was going to be Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker, and I would have told you that should probably main event the show because I think that's a big money match.
Right.
I also think Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes would have been a big match, but obviously you can't do that. Tony Storm and Mercedes would be a big match. I do think Mercedes inevitably ends up in AEW at some point. I know she's really expensive, and that's part of the reason she's not currently under contract to New Japan. But
You can afford it.
my question is, does she want to sign a contract anywhere? Because it seems like she's trying to do short-term deals wherever she goes.
That might what she wants to do.
Which,
Yeah.
coming from where she's coming from,
Makes sense.
I completely understand it. Because think about how long she was in WWE and just wanted to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Because every month it felt like you'd hear Sasha Banks wants to leave. So
we did hear a little bit about there was a little bit about the other night about Willow versus her.
Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that happened in Japan. Yeah.
Right.
I have a lot of questions about, what are they going to do with this women's title now? I don't think that I know for a fact the plan was not to take the belt off of Jamie Hayter here. She's
Right.
hurt. You didn't have a choice. I get it.
Yep.
It was like when they had that thing where Christian was hurt and he couldn't do that match. So they had Luchasaurus attack Jungle Boy. And you had to kind of work around the fact Christian couldn't work.
Right.
It's the same thing. I mean, so if Hayter is okay enough by All In to work All In, I think that's where they give her the belt back because they're going to be in London and that's where Jamie's from.
Right.
So now, update on Wembley. They've sold almost 70,000 tickets for this Wembley show.
Hard to believe. Hard to believe. I didn't think they could do it.
I mean, nobody did. I thought they were going to do 45, 50. And that would have been a success. 50,000 would have been a roaring success.
Yep.
They are going to be at 70, maybe even 80 by the time.
It'll definitely be the biggest crowd they've ever had. Ever.
Oh, the biggest crowd they've ever had is 20,000. So they beat it.
This will dwarf that
by tens of thousands.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're not going to do it every year. Maybe not at Wembley. Maybe you go to Craven Cottage, which I think is 38. Once a year you go to London or
Sure.
something like that. I mean, Craven Cottage's capacity is 25,700. And that the Cons own that. They own Craven Cottage because they own Fulham Football Club.
Sure.
Who finished in 10th in the Premier League by some miracle after Leicester City got relegated. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway.
Yeah.
It still hurts. We just got relegated yesterday. It's painful. Anyway, speaking of painful.
Yes.
Sounds like Liv Morgan's shoulder issue is worse than suspected.
Right.
Which is not good
for a while, it sounds like.
Which is not good for that women's division because I know they weren't necessarily booking her correctly, but she is one of the most reliable, have a good match with just about anybody women they have. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yes.
Like, name the last match Liv Morgan had where she didn't at least try to make it as good as she could.
Yeah, she's good.
And like, so Liv being out hurts. Jamie Hayter's out for AEW.
Right.
I think so. Let's talk about Money in the Bank for a second. I think it's Becky versus Zoe at Money in the Bank
Zoe. Yeah,
because
definitely.
I think Trish is SummerSlam.
I think Zoe is going to give Becky a hell of a match. And I think she should win it too, personally.
I don't know if she'll win, but
It'll be a good match. I don't think they'll do it, but I think they should.
who do you think wins Money in the Bank?
See, and this would be to challenge
Either champion.
either champion. Okay. All right.
I mean, LA Knight makes sense to me, but
LA Knight will be in there. Austin Theory, I'm sure, is going to be in that match too.
depends on if he still has the US title.
Right.
I mean, hang on. Let's see.
We could get a few of our old regulars, like Johnny Gargano and Baron Corbin. And
I mean, here, let me see. I'm trying to, because there's a, here, according to Worked Wrestling, WRKD Wrestling, and they've gotten a lot of stuff right before. Names discussed to participate are right now Cody Rhodes, Finn Balor, Gable, Edge, and Gunther. But
Finn Balor, you say?
yeah, and LA Knight is also on there, as is Dominic. LA Knight is right. LA Knight, last I read and heard, is LA Knight was plan A in terms of Money in the Bank. And man, is he over.
That'd give him a little bit of a boost,
Yeah, and he's over. He's over as hell. He's gotten himself over.
Yeah.
Which is what Eli Drake has done everywhere he's gone. He's gotten himself over by hook or by crook. He gets himself over.
Right. You're smart enough to know just because you're not being pushed doesn't mean you can't make that impression that's going to make the fans want you.
Right. And the fans chant, yeah, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They were chanting for LA Knight at the press conference before the show on Friday. So
that's a good sign for him.
I mean, like,
time to start slinging some of that merch.
And his merch is selling really well too.
Yep.
Because he's got really nice merch. I don't know if you've seen any of his shirts or anything, but he's got some nice merch. But I think that about does it for us. We've gone about an hour talking about Double or Nothing, Night of Champions.
Yeah.
LA Knight's merchandise sales.
Right.
And of course, the most important thing, professional wrestling.
Exactly.
Well, Russ, how would you rate both shows before we go? Which show did you like more?
Night of Champions, I thought was slightly better.
I thought it was paced better, which is weird.
Right.
WWE never paces things well.
I would say, I don't know, on a scale from 1 to 10, I'd give it an 8, and I would give Double or Nothing a 7.
I would give Double or Nothing a 7.5, and I would give Night of Champions an 8. Neither show was bad. There was not a bad show. It was just one was slightly better than the other.
Yeah.
And I think the Bloodline stuff carried Night of Champions, but it had to. So that's gonna do it for us.
Yes.
Thanks to Russ, our producer Damon Marvin, and as always, we will be right back here next week. Normal time, normal day next week. We're gonna be back on Sunday. Happy
Yes.
Memorial Day, everybody. We will see you
Yes.
next week. Damon, play my fucking music. We're out of here.
Have a good